Have you ever felt euphoric with a new crush, like totally enamored? We all recognize the feelings that go along with that jolt of romantic chemistry when we're excited about that new person. The way our heart rate speeds up, the fluttering in our bellies, and the way we feel shy or self-conscious when we talk to them. We may stammer, lose our train of thought, or even blush. But then there are the obsessive intrusive thoughts with fantasies that play out in our heads. We can't stop thinking about them. It's no wonder that these feelings are described as fireworks or electricity. Romantic passion is intensely pleasurable, but it can be scary at the same time. The only word we have to describe these feelings is love. And our language here leaves a lot to be desired because LOVE can mean a host of different things, from I love my grandma to I love my dog, or I love chocolate or scary movies. And all these feelings and experiences are actually very different, but we use the same word for all of them. The thing is, we can experience this kind of intense romantic and sexual attraction for someone who is entirely wrong for us. We can be attracted to someone we don't really like. The most intense passion can even exist for someone who treats us cruelly. Most of us have been there at one time or another, and some of us many times, and often we find ourselves confused by our own patterns of attraction. In this program, I'm going to address the ways that romantic love is like addiction, and the ways our own brains can trick us, and how dangerous this is if we're involved with a pathological person, like someone with a narcissistic or similar personality style. I'm psychotherapist Shavaun Scott, and on this channel I address your questions about everything related to psychology, relationships, and mental health. If you enjoy this program, please like it and feel free to subscribe to my channel. You may know someone who jumps from one partner to the next, always convinced at the beginning of each new relationship that they've finally found their perfect soulmate. But it never lasts, and after a few months or a year, they've moved on to a newer, better soulmate, and the pattern keeps repeating. In English, we use the term falling in love, which seems to capture the sense that romantic attachments are something we have no control over. Like we just randomly walked off a ledge, and falling is the natural result of gravity. You can't fight it, can't direct it, it just happens. But in truth, once we understand the mechanisms behind romantic attachments, we learn that we're not really helpless, and there's a lot we can do to guide the process so that we make choices that serve our best interests. Now, there are several layers here, and some of it has to do with the ways we attach to our parents in childhood. You may have read about various attachment styles, and I'll cover that topic in another video. Today, I'm going to discuss the ways that our innate brain chemistry drives romantic attachments and how something that we romanticize can actually work against us. For most people, understanding that there's a biological process fueling romantic love is empowering. Once we understand it, we see that we don't have to live as a victim of our hormones, because our hormones are not always our friend. In fact, the hormones driving attachment to a romantic partner are the same ones that cause addiction. So from a neurological standpoint, we can say that romantic love is a form of addiction. And as long as we're not with a pathological partner, it's not a bad thing. I'm talking about the neurohormones dopamine, oxytocin, and endogenous opioids, which fuel two related brain systems, the reward system, which is powered by dopamine, and the bonding or the attachment system, which is powered by oxytocin and endogenous opioids. These chemicals do many different things in the body, but they have key roles in the ways we experience romantic love. Now, dopamine fuels the reward system, which is the brain system that creates pleasure-seeking, wanting, and anticipation. Dopamine causes cravings. When a person activates your reward system, you find yourself thinking obsessively about them and craving contact with them. It's so exciting and pleasurable that we pursue the person, even if the pursuit is only happening online or in our imaginations. Each time we pursue, we get another hit of dopamine, and it's intensely pleasurable and exciting. We can crave a person in the same way an addict craves cocaine. In online relationships, it's common for partners who have never even met in person to develop the same kind of powerful dopamine-driven connection without physical contact. Every text, particularly if they're exchanging sexy pictures, brings another hit of dopamine. This is the reward-driven process that occurs in the early courtship phase of most relationships, and that doesn't mean it's pathological. It's part of what nature designed to keep us pairing up to procreate. If pair bonding wasn't such an exciting activity, humans might not bother to do it, and the species would have died out eons ago. Clearly, nature wasn't going to let that happen. Now, the bonding system is the second part of the process, and it's fueled by oxytocin and endogenous opioids. Oxytocin is the neurohormone that connects us socially to other people. It's been called the cuddle hormone, and it serves as glue. And in romantic relationships, it makes us feel like you are mine. We are locked together. We are a pair. Then the endogenous opioids kick in, which bring a feeling of comfort and calm. We feel soothed in the presence of our partner, and we're uncomfortable when we're away from them. So the reward system keeps us pursuing our partner, and the bonding system makes us feel good when we're with them, so that we stick together. The problem is that these systems keep doing their thing, even if the person turns out to be not a very good partner. They may do things that hurt us. They may even be abusive. But once we're attached to them through these biological processes that operate beneath our conscious awareness, we're fighting our own neurobiology if we try to get out of the relationship. And that's what makes it hard. So just like in substance addiction, when a person is separated from a partner they're bonded with, they suffer pangs of withdrawal and a desperate desire to be reattached. We're not making a rational choice about the attachment that we feel. We may understand a dozen reasons why this person isn't good for us, but those reasons don't really change what we're feeling because it's non-rational. It has nothing to do with our intelligence. It's driven by our own neurochemistry. Now, there are variations in the ways that these systems work. Some people have a very robust reward system, so lots of dopamine, but an absent bonding system. They don't have the oxytocin part. These are the people who are driven by the thrill of chasing a new partner, but they never attach very deeply once they've acquired one. They love the pursuit, and while they may convince themselves that each new partner is the one, they soon lose interest when the dopamine levels drop. Without the oxytocin to bring a deeper sense of bonding, they tell themselves they're no longer in love when they're not getting the zing from the dopamine. And they start looking for someone new to get that exciting feeling back. This is the person who's always looking for that newer, better soulmate. They're intense in the beginning of a relationship, but their feelings quickly wane, and they start to look for someone else. This is very hard on the people who become involved with them if they went in believing that this would be a monogamous long-term relationship. When one partner has a toxic personality and relationship style, like pathological narcissism or psychopathy, this neurohormone process can intensify and create what we refer to as the trauma bond. Sometimes we're attracted to certain types of highly charismatic, dramatic, or extreme people precisely because they really excite our dopamine system. They come on strong, they shower affection, they love bomb. And this causes our brains to be bathed in happy, feel-good neurohormones while we're unaware that we're attaching to someone who is physically or emotionally dangerous. A pathological partner can only keep up the facade for a limited time and periodically becomes abusive, cruel, or begins to withdraw and withhold affection. The other partner experiences dopamine craving for a return of the attachment and love, and so they pursue. They try to fix things because they want the oxytocin and endogenous opioids again. They want to feel comforted and soothed, and they experience a longing for the abusive partner. They'll twist themselves into a pretzel to try to get their pathological partner to reconnect with them. And this can result in various kinds of extreme behavior, which is eventually followed by a return to the honeymoon phase, and it all starts over. This sets up a reward, withdrawal, reward cycle, which is the cement for addiction. In fact, it's the most addictive kind of process there is, and it creates the kind of trauma bond that is often labeled LOVE. But it's not a healthy kind of attachment because it's painful and it causes harm. In fact, it's so destructive, I don't use the word love to describe it. Slot machines are designed with this kind of intermittent reward system. Gamblers are driven by dopamine and keep putting money in the machine because they're hoping that at some point they'll hit the jackpot. But the system is programmed to just give out a few bucks every so often, an intermittent reward, to keep them playing. The intermittent reward fuels dopamine-driven cravings. When a pathological partner periodically rejects us, withdraws love, or becomes abusive, because that's what they do, our reward system drives us to try to reattach. You're longing for consistent love, but it never comes. And ultimately, you lose your peace and maybe for a time your sense of self. But you keep trying to get it right, hoping that things will change. After a rejection or abusive incident, the dopamine actually increases. The rejected partner feels driven to pursue, and this can cause them to behave in desperate ways that are entirely out of character. They may beg, plead, or even stalk. They're unable to get the other person out of their mind. Often, they feel ashamed for behaving this way, but they have a hard time letting go of the obsessive thoughts and feelings. Trauma bonds like this are hard to break, but it starts with acknowledging what's happening, learning about the process, and finding support. Knowledge is power, and growing into the awareness that you deserve better is where we begin to build a happier, more satisfying life. So how do we navigate romantic relationships with these neurohormones that have the potential to lead us into destructive patterns? We start by being aware of our vulnerabilities, tendencies, and patterns. We can learn to not let the reward system grab the wheel and start driving the car while the bonding system hits the gas and leads us to a car crash. This is why there's power in simply understanding how the neurohormone system works. That awareness helps us tap the brake, drive carefully, and proceed with caution. Once we understand our tendencies, we can practice keeping our thinking brain plugged in and recognize when our neurohormones are playing games with us. We can learn to pause and question our first impulses and attractions. We want our thinking brains to be involved in the choice of a partner, not just our reward system. But this is harder than it sounds, because it feels like we're fighting our own instincts, and sometimes we are. It takes reflection, mindfulness, and the ability to stand back and objectively observe our patterns and choices. Before jumping into a new relationship, we want to be able to pause long enough to try to determine if this person is likely to be good for us. People can be manipulative and on their best behavior, especially in the beginning. A new romance is exciting, but it takes more than excitement to build a satisfying long-term love relationship. But what about if we've already attached to a pathological person? When we've been rejected or hurt by a toxic relationship partner, we will have dopamine-driven cravings for them and irrational feelings that will only feel comfort if we're with them. You may be trying to decide whether or not you want to stay in a relationship like this, or trying to navigate after you've gotten out. Either way, some general words of advice are the same. We manage this by becoming our healthiest selves and building a balanced life. This is true whether or not we're still in a relationship with a pathological person. We have to learn to help ourselves by getting our normal needs met in other ways with other people and activity. I often use the metaphor of the crystal bowl. You may have heard it. Imagine you're holding a beautiful crystal bowl with all 10 fingers of both hands. This bowl represents your life and you want to treasure it. You don't want it to fall and crash. Each finger represents an important category of support in the areas of emotional health, physical health, and social health. And when you have a well-supported life, we're most apt to thrive. If you've only had one finger supporting you, like a pathological partner, if that person goes away or withdraws affection from you, the bowl crashes. I have people identify one activity for every finger in each of those categories. Under emotional health, you might identify reading self-help books or watching YouTube videos about psychology, going to therapy, listening to music, or doing things that help you feel calm. Under physical health, you could list eating healthy food, getting some exercise outdoors, making sure you get enough sleep, and practicing yoga, tai chi, or dance. Under social health, you might list going to a support group or spending time with close friends who love you. You can even include social media here as long as you're seeking out kind and supportive relationships. I have people write out a specific plan for each of those things that they will do every week. And making this into a life practice puts you in a much stronger position. You'll be a healthier person, and that will help you keep perspective about your romantic relationships. New pleasurable activities and hobbies help satisfy dopamine-driven cravings. People get plenty of dopamine hits from things they enjoy out in nature, swimming, hiking, rafting. Some get tremendous pleasure from dance classes, concerts, or art projects. Many people play sports, cook, or take classes. Everyone can find something that brings them pleasure that's worth pursuing. We all need novelty and a variety of activities we enjoy, but it can take time to structure these things into our lives. And I get it. If you work a lot, especially if you have kids, you're tired and it's hard. It takes thought and planning, and we have to structure it. But even a 15-minute walk counts. Keeping our calendar full of pleasurable activities means we're not allowing our dopamine system to drive our focus back to our toxic partner. We also get oxytocin from good friends who care for us and nurture us. We need close relationships that are non-romantic to have a balanced life. We also get that bonding hormone from our pets if we're lucky enough to have any. If we don't have many close friends, support groups, in person or online, can help. We need help understanding that a pathological partner's rejecting behavior is part of their personality style, and it has nothing to do with who we are and our worthiness. When we're feeling dopamine-driven cravings for an ex-partner who's been abusive, our thoughts tend to take us back to only the fond memories. I find it's often helpful for people to write out a worst memories list to keep a realistic perspective. Read it daily. Reading over the worst memories helps prevent our brains from focusing on the fantasies. Sometimes we have inner work to accomplish, which will allow us to feel more peace and contentment in our own skin. We may need help addressing problems like depression, anxiety, or a trauma history through therapy. When we feel those electric zings with a potential new partner, we can practice reminding ourselves to slow down and keep our thinking brain strategically in the driver's seat, to tap the brakes on our dopamine-driven cravings and our oxytocin-driven urge to bond. It takes about 2 years to really know a person. We want to take it slow and drive cautiously because that's how we keep ourselves safe. Take good care.